Hello, it's Deborah at Attic Lane. Today I want to share with you the latest Simon Says stamp card kit, and this is the November kit called Kind Flowers. I've been really looking forward to this one since I saw the reveal about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Oh, nearly missed a bit. Let's start with that. This is really pretty. This is stickers. Nice thick card stickers. Lots of gold detail on these as well, with family and home and kindness as a theme. So there's loads of those. That's massive. Whoa. Let's just make sure we have everything. Oops. Lollipop. This is the inspiration sheet, and there are 6 card ideas on there showing how you could potentially use your kit. Wow, this is a really thick, beautiful cardstock, sort of coppery colours. I better not linger over this because otherwise the video will just be me going, oh, look at that. This is a sort of a silvery, very heavily textured, loose paper. Wow. And again, very heavily embossed, very thick paper. The cardstock then, there are 4 sheets in love green. Lovely, two lovely greens, a cream and a brown. I'll probably do what I usually do, cut them down the centre and then use them as top fold cards. And there are some gold leaves. They've got little holes in the top so they could be hung, suspended with twine or string or glued. There's a little, a really little die. The stamp set is lovely. It's much bigger than the normal Simon Says stamp set that you get in the card kits, and there's loads of words. There's this very big floral stamp with the word kind in the centre, and then there's lots of floral elements around it, petals and leaves. What I also like is that these leaves face both ways, so they do that. So if you're making a wreath, you can make the wreath go in the correct direction. If you don't have that, if you only have one leaf that goes one way, all you can do is make the leaf go in that direction. Whereas with leaves that go both ways, you get that option. So you have these ones as well, which also go in opposite directions. They face each other. And then there are these tiny little elements down here. There's a little heart, an outline and a solid heart, and then little dots. And then finally there is really beautiful paper pack. I don't want to break any of this. I don't want to cut into any of this. There are some really nice tags on this sheet, and then I normally flip through these quite quickly, but on this occasion I want to just take a little bit longer, just to linger over how pretty these sheets are. They're not double-sided, so I don't have to make difficult decisions about which ones to use. And also, this is a good example, there is across the top there's a contrasting paper. If you wanted, and I may do this in my cards, I could cut out that top piece, use something to maybe cover over the little hole, disguise that hole somehow, and then I give myself an extra element on my cards. Very, very pretty papers. More tags, loads of ideas for how to get your cards going. More gold embossing, lovely foliage, some letters, very pretty again, gold on a dark brown, sort of a chocolate brown background, more foliage, and I think it looks as if that little flower there sort of matches the stamp. Similar. More elements there that you can just add onto your card. Just cut those out. Wow, isn't that beautiful? You wouldn't want to put that on a card. You want to put it in a frame. Hang it on your wall. Lovely foliage. A little bit of gingham, and again another beautiful sheet. I'll be surprised if I use this. I don't want to cut into it, it's so pretty. So that's the kit this month. Let's see what we can make. For my first card, I've already stamped out the large stamp with the flowers surrounding the word kind, and I had anticipated that the little die would cut out the word, but actually here you can see it only cuts out a big shape. So I've gone in with my scalpel and I'm going to cut out each of those letters individually. This didn't take too long, and I was really keen to see how the whole word would turn out, and I was really pleased with it. I've kept the D and the little insert from the D, and I'm cutting that out separately because I want to use that in my finished card. I've got a range of Copic sketch markers. I'm using the same colours as in the sheet of paper just above because they're such lovely colours, and I've laid down the tops of each of the markers as I use them with the numbers facing up so you can see which numbers I chose. Because I knew I was going to be using my Copic sketch markers, the black ink that I use to stamp the image out is from My Favourite Things. It's a hybrid ink pad and it's called Black Licorice, and it's perfect because it means that you don't get any drag in from the ink onto your markers. The ink stays solid on the paper. Down the side of the card I'm working on, you can see I've tested out many different colours before I decided on the ones that I'm using. I've got my white foam sheets. I use these quite a lot when I want to add a 3D element to any of my designs because I like the variation that you can get. You're not limited to a square or a circle. You can cut out exactly the size and shape that you need for your project. I'm cutting within the pencil line that I created because I know I need to be slightly smaller than the design, and now I'm just indicating where the word kind will fall, and because this is foam I can just fold it in half and cut out that centerpiece so that the word kind looks as if it's completely open. I'm using a wet adhesive to glue my coloured image onto the craft foam backing. I like using a wet glue because it gives you some wiggle room if you don't get it absolutely right first time, and I usually don't. I've added some foam pads to some of the little sticky out bits of this design, like the leaves, and the white card underneath is my final card base, and I'm going to glue this into position on my card and just flatten it down very, very softly. I've put a foam pad on the back of that little D insert, and I'm sticking that into position as well. Look away if you're of a nervous disposition because I'm going to cut up my stamps. I do this quite a lot. You'll know this if you've seen my other videos. Stamps should work for you if they're not in the right format or the right shape, and if you can change them without damaging the original stamp, then just go ahead and cut them off. In this I wanted to be able to put a sentiment at the top that said, "You have a," and then I wanted the word kind in the middle and heart at the bottom, and by cutting up my stamp I achieved it. Don't be scared. Card 2 is a complete contrast. I really like layered cards, collage cards, but I don't often make them because the kits don't often lend themselves to that sort of a card. This set, however, really does. I've selected 2 of the sentiments from one of the sheets in the pack of paper, and I've sewn them onto another piece of base card. I've done that off camera because my sewing machine doesn't fit under my overhead camera. I've put some glue on the reverse of this topper, and I'm running some twine around it. I'm going to leave 2 loose ends so that I can tie a bow because I'm very good at tying bows. That's why I've done that a little bit off camera as well, so you can't see how much fiddling around I did in the background before I arrived at that beautiful finished result. So that's my topper, and I'm going to put a piece of burlap onto one of the dark brown card bases. I've cut this down and I've top folded it. I've glued all of those pieces into position, and now I'm going to select a couple of the stickers from the set. So this has got a little butterfly and some foliage around it, and I'm putting that just to the bottom right of the picture, and I'm taking another butterfly and putting that at the top, and I want the wings on both of these just to pop out onto the brown frame around the outside, and I'm securing my lovely knot with some glue. For card 3 I wanted to use more stamping on my card, so I've taken nearly all of the phrases, the tiny little words, and I've positioned them vertically on a stamp. I'm inking them up with Versacolour cement ink, and I'm pressing them down onto a piece of white card, and they're vertical. You could use them horizontally, but for this card I'm using them vertically. I'm taking my powder and just going over the inked area to make sure that nothing from my embossing will be picked up on it. Now I'm using green tea onto the largest of the words, kindness, and I'm inking that up. and I'm going to stamp that across all of those words. To make the word pop, I'm using a clear embossing powder, and once that's heat set, it will secure the image. I've got some Miri card, some gold Miri card, and I've been very careful how I use this so I don't blind you with it, but I've backed my phrase and my card topper onto the gold Miri card, and I've positioned that and glued it onto one of the green base cards from the set. Off camera, I've stamped and cut out two of the flower images from the stamp set, and I'm colouring them with a Copic sketch marker which is called Garnet, and it's R39. I'm adding 3 of the gold leaves, and I'm going to take my Nuvo Drops bottle green just to pop a little green blob in the centre of each flower. My card is nice and shimmery and nicely finished. For card 4, I've cut 2 of the pieces of card from the kit so that they will fit onto one of my brown base cards, and I'm leaving 2 brown strips down the edge of both sides, but I'm taking my specially cut card right up to the top and the bottom. Now there is a little gap in the middle, but that doesn't matter because I'm using one of the pieces of card from the top that I pointed out in the introduction that I might do. The hole there doesn't matter because I'm going to use that strip to cover in the little gap between the 2 different colours of card. I'm going to snip off the excess, and then I'm going to cover up that hole with one of the embellishments from the sticker kit. I've selected this large flower with foliage, and I'm just positioning it exactly where I want it on my card, and these are stickers, so it's great. Once I'm happy with the position, I can just stick it in place. Now I'm taking the word that says home vertically, and I'm just positioning that so that it hangs down from my little band across my card. I'm adding some of the green flowers from the sticker kit to add a little variation to the colour, and to finish it off is a little butterfly. I'm using my stitch circle dies from Cottage Cuts for card 5, and this is such a powerful paper. It's so heavily embossed and so deeply textured that I wanted this to be the central point of my card. So I've cut out a hole in the top, and I'm using Nuvo Mousse in spring green and a soft brush to go over the piece of paper very, very lightly, but I want to pick up the texture. I want to tone down the cream colour a little to make it fit nicer onto my base card, and I want to lift the texture. I've put some glue on the back and I'm just sticking that down. Again, every time I touch this I'm going very, very lightly. I don't want to press down and remove the texture. There's a perfect little circle that says "We Are Family" on the sticker kit, and I've positioned that in the centre of my card. I'm going to use Pebeo gilding wax, this is called Renaissance Gold, to go very, very lightly over the outside edges of the card. It will also help highlight the extreme texture on this piece of paper. I'm taking a piece of kitchen towel to buff up the colour. Again, I'm doing this very, very lightly. This is a piece of ribbon that I thought matched beautifully with the colours of the card. I've tied it in a bow off camera so I don't embarrass myself, and I'm going to glue that into position on my card. Lots of beautiful shimmer on that card. For card 6, I'm using 3 Paper Artsy chalk acrylic paints. I'm using Toad Hall, which is a green, Brown Shed, which is a sort of a reddy brown, and Toffee, which is a brown. I'm dotting them over a piece of watercolour card, and although there's a big splat on the bottom left corner, I can take that off so that it doesn't dominate my colour scheme. And all I'm going to do is take a wet baby wipe and I'm going to dab the colour all over the card. I'm not smearing it on, I'm not moving the colour around, I'm just splatting it to make each of those little dots blend in with each other. You can add more if you think it's necessary. I'm now taking some Glimmer Mist. This is one that I had from my stash, it's suede, and I'm just going to spritz that onto my card to give it a little bit of a shimmer. I'll use my heat gun and I'll dry this off. The brown mat that I've positioned my design onto is one of the embossing mats that you get with most cutters such as Big Shot, which is the one that I use. And I'm doing that because I want to have a nice soft base that I can stamp into. And I'm using the biggest stamp from the set, the word kind surrounded by foliage. I'm going to use some white embossing powder and I'm going to cover the image with that, and then I will heat set that. That's it, heat set, and you can see there's a nice gleam from the white. And now I'm using, in a colour called Persian Red, I'm going to use this as a paint, so I'm putting some onto one of my stamp blocks. I'm going to add a little spritz of water to make it fluid and easier to move around, and I'm using quite a small brush to paint in the centre of the word kind. This is almost a coppery red colour and it matches beautifully with the acrylic paints on the base. I'm going to cut my card down. I'm going to mat it onto a piece of black card. You can see a thin border around the outside, and I'm using the beautiful copper paper from the pack to make another mat underneath that as well, but I've cut away the centre because I'm going to save that and use that on my next card. So I've cut the copper into a frame. I'm going to position that onto some black base card, and now I'm going to add the topper that I've made to that. These are just pearls from Imagination Crafts, and these are copper, and I'm adding a little dot wherever there are dots in the design. And once I've done that, I'm going to leave it to dry and my card will be complete. For card 7, I'm using a piece of brown card from my own stash and a piece of the copper paper that we saved from the previous card. I've gone to the card kit and I've selected this tag that says blessed, and I've also cut one of the top strips from the sheets of paper, and I'm going to use the hole as a strengthener around the hole on this little tag. I'm gluing that in place and then I'll cut off the excess. That gives a nice little border to that part of my tag as well. I'm going to use my crocodile to cut a large hole where the hole is indicated on the tag, and then I'm going to just see where I want it to fit onto the card. I'm going to glue down the copper coloured paper into position on my card, and I'm going to grab my archival ink called Coffee, and I'm going to go around the outside edge of the tag with the ink pad to make it stand out a little bit more against the background. I've got some natural coloured twine and I'm going to pop it through the hole, and then I'm going to wind it through the tag to add a little bit of interest to that end of the tag. I'm going to complete my tag by tying a little knot in the twine, and then I'm going to get one of these stickers from the sticker set. There are so many of these to choose from, and I'm using the nest with the 3 little eggs in it, and I'm just going to position that onto my card and stick it into place. I'm going to add some gold to this card now to really make it shimmer and shine, and I've chosen one of the little hearts from the sticker set and the gold branch as well. I'm going to secure those into place on my tag. I'm going to add some adhesive foam to the back of my card to lift the tag up a little bit from the rest of the background. I'm going to add one last sticker from the sticker set, and I'm reaching for the gold one that says Happy Family. I think that goes really nicely with the nest in the bottom. I've got some gold leaves from the kit, and I'm going to add those as well, just in little places where I think they will add a nice little bit of shine. And with that, my card is finished. On to card 8, and I've cut down one of the pages of paper so that it will fit my card base, and I'm going to use this green piece of paper from the sheet that gives you ideas for what to do with your kit, because it was just perfect for what I wanted. I'm stamping up one of the small sentiments with my Versacolour ink, and I'm going to use a detail black embossing powder to cover that, and then I will heat set it. That's it finished. And I'm going to now cut out a number of words using the kind die, and I'm going to stamp up the word kind using one of my Versacolour inks. This is a colour called Pine Cone, and then I'm going to put the die over the top of it and cut that out as well. I'm going to secure that in place with a little bit of tape to make sure that it doesn't move too much. Now that I've got my word, I'm going to take two of the other blank die cuts that I cut out, and I'm going to layer them up, and this will give my sentiment some dimension when I attach it to my card. It adds maybe 2 millimeters of depth. I'm now going to glue up my base card that I showed that I'd already cut out, and I'll position that onto a white top folding base card. With that in position, I can glue up my 3-layered die cut with the word kind printed on top, and I can put that into the centre of my card. It would also work very nicely on the bottom right corner of the card. I'm just snipping away the final little triangle of white from my borrowed piece of paper, and I'm going to glue that in place under the word kind. I've got my clear Wink of Stella pen, and I'm going over the word to make it shimmer, and when I've completed that, I'm going to take 2 of the sprigs of foliage from the stamp set. I'm going to stamp them, and I'm going to colour them with Copic markers. I've just used a couple of greens, a light green and a darker green, and I'm going to just glue them around the word kind. I want something to just wrap around that sentiment. And with those stuck in position, my card is complete. I'm using a brown card from my own stash, and I've cut down one of the pieces of paper from the kit so that it will cover half of that card base. I'm going to use the largest of the words, kindness, and I'm going to ink it up, and I'm going to stamp it onto my brown card so that it will sit above the layer of paper below it. This is a Wow Sparkle Gold Glitter embossing powder, and I will heat set this. To prepare my piece of paper that will sit underneath the sentiment, I'm going to punch 2 holes in the top of this piece of paper, and I've adjusted my crocodile so that it will be an equal distance from the top for each of those holes. I've got some really beautiful gold twine, and I'm going to poke it through one of the holes. I'm going to turn the piece of card over, and I will secure it on the other side, on the reverse, with some double-sided tape. This has the double purpose of securing the end of my twine in position, and it means that when I want to secure the card, I can take off the backing paper, and I can use that to help secure that piece of paper in position. Now I'm going to tie a bow. I'm quite pleased with this one, so you get to see me doing this one. Ta-da! And then I will glue that into position on the bottom of that card so that the word kindness appears to sit on top of the paper. I think those colours complement each other really nicely. So now I'm choosing one of the stickers from the set. I'm tucking the base of this underneath the paper below, and I'm choosing another of the gold sentiments which says love from the kit to complete my card. For card 10, I'm using the really beautiful gold embossed tree, which is on one of the papers in the set, and I'm selecting the tag that says just for you. I'm taking one of the top pieces of card from one of the sheets of paper, and I'm going to glue that at an angle across the tag. I'm going to actually cover up the very sweet little birds because I'm going to use birds later in the card. I want it to look as if the tag is just popping through that piece of... I want it to look as if it's tape and it's popping through the piece of tape. And I'll secure the back with a little spot of glue. I'm choosing the bird picture from the sticker set, and I'm going to position that just popping out the side of the tag. Now that the topper is complete, I'll glue it onto position on one of the cream base cards that came with the kit. To complete this, I want to use some more stickers from my sheet. I'm choosing the little yellow-headed daisies. I think they add a nice little splash of colour, along with a gold heart. And the card is complete. That's all of our 10 cards for today. I hope that you enjoyed the video and that you got some ideas for yourself. Thank you very much for your time, thank you for watching, and thank you as ever for all the kind comments that you leave me below the videos. I'm going to leave you with some close-ups of the cards that we have made, along with a little bit of music, and I will see you next time.